Hello friends, I am Arpit and I am here with today's analysis. Today is 29th of February and we are going to cover three very important topics which are in news. The early childhood care. This is very important because we want to reap the demographic dividend. In a patriarchal society, early childhood care is largely considered the prerogative of the women. But the government on the other side is targeting women led development. This simply means that the state has to pitch in more for early childhood care and development. The state has taken multiple steps in this direction. Like, for example, the state has launched the Nipun Bharat mission, which aims to enhance the learning outcomes. The Poshan Bhi Padhai Bhi, which aims to include the Anganwadis for elementary education. Then increased budgetary allocation is there. Introduction of Jadui Pitara, which is basically a play-based learning curriculum for children up till class 2. And finally, the Panch Kosha element, which has been introduced in the National Education Policy of 2020. After all, padega India, tabhi to badega India. Next is Genome India project. Our body is made up of organs. Organs are made up of tissues. Tissues are made up of cells. And inside the cells, there are chromosomes. Inside the chromosomes is the DNA, and the DNA is made up of the genes or the genomes. There are various combinations of genomes in the DNA. Now, Genome India project, which started in 2020, aims to sequence all the genomes of the Indians. This will help us understand the historical evolution of our society. Second of all, it will help us understand the genetic diseases or the threat of genetic diseases in the future. And lastly, and most importantly, it will help us identify therapies and cures to those genetic diseases. This has been complete now, and the data with respect to this will be stored in the government agency in Faridabad. Next is the Dharma Guardian exercise. This Dharma Guardian exercise is an annual exercise since 2018 between India and Japan. Establishing interoperability, as is the objective of many such exercises, is the one of this exercise as well. Apart from it, India and Japan share a strategic partnership, so this exercise is a testament to that. We are also building interoperability in disaster relief operations like we did in the aftermath of 2004 tsunami. Now, let's get started with the first topic, that is early childhood care. Now, children basically in their formative years of learning. Formative years of learning are those years where pre-primary LKG or nursery LKG, UKG, first, second, or at times play school also is counted under this. But if I talk about the government setup prior to the NEP 2020 was 10 plus 2. 10 plus 2 means from class 1 to 10 and 11, 12. This was, I would say, the approach of the government. Now, what about these classes? Nursery, LKG, UKG, upper KG, lower KG, and nursery. This was largely ignored by the government in government schools. Now the government has come up with this new initiative, or this 10 plus 2 format is changed. It is 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4. This is the new format according to the National Education Policy of 2020. 5 is nursery, LKG, UKG, first and second, so up to class 2 it is there. Then this is basically third, fourth, fifth. This is 6th, 7th, 8th, and this is 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th. So nursery, LKG, UKG, first and second. This is basically 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4 format. And for this nursery, LKG and UKG, the government has approached the Anganwadi centers that they will be involved in giving education at the elementary level. Earlier, Anganwadi centers were utilized for cooking midday meals for the school children. But yes, apart from cooking meals for the school children, they will also be engaging in teaching them with the theme Poshan Bhi Padhai Bhi. Early childhood care is very, very important because these are the formative years of learning. If you don't, sow the seed right, this can have, I would say, negative repercussions in the times to come. And this thing is very much true with respect to elementary learning or early childhood care and learning. If we have to reap the demographic dividend is basically the profit which we can reap out of the population. We are actually at such a stage that we can reach or we can reap the demographic dividend. Why? Because maximum of our workforce is, or maximum of our population is in the working age group. Around 70% of India's population is there in the working age group. This is a precondition for demographic dividend to be reaped. So we have achieved this, but yes, it is not the only condition, through which you will reap demographic dividend. This is the primary condition, primary prerequisite we can call it, that when maximum of your population is in the working age group, this is there in India. But what if that maximum population which is in the working age group is not educated enough, is not skilled enough? Or what if there are no ample job opportunities for them? Then in that scenario, will the demographic dividend be reaped? Obviously, it will not. And to make them educated, to make them skilled, to make them aware, we need to we need to focus right from the very beginning. And the beginning is here. That is early childhood care and education is very, very important. But unfortunately, it has been ignored. It has remained both underinvested and underexplored over decades. The government, on the other hand, is talking about women-led development. This particular domain, early childhood care and education, was considered to be the responsibility of the women till now. We are living in a patriarchal society, let's not forget that. And it was also considered as one of the household chores or chores of the women who are handling the households. So they will be responsible for teaching the children. It has traditionally been women's work. But now we are also talking about women-led development. Our Prime Minister clearly talks about this, that we need to increase participation of women in the workforce. Now, when the women will be there in the workforce, who will be doing this responsibility? Who will be undertaking this responsibility? We have to think in this direction as well. It should not be like that children should be, left ignored in this pursuit of, doing women-led development. It should be the responsibility of the males of the house, first of all. So it should be equal responsibility. That is something which has to change. That is something which has to be crept into the society. And second is the increased focus by the state, means increased focus by the government on early childhood care and education. Now, with the increasing focus by the government on women-led development, including a new survey by Ministries of Women and Child Development and Labour, it was announced on January 30 on working women. Care work and early childhood are finally being seen as part of the critical work of running a country. So means government is increasing its focus on this. It has to, if it wants to include women in the workforce. Hence, the state is taking adequate measures for it. Measures for it means measures for early childhood care and education. Now, what is the importance of early childhood care and education? If you invest in education of a child right from the very beginning, the foundation is laid right. That person turns out to be more productive when that person joins the workforce. And if that person is ignored, then you will be having a less productive workforce, and which India cannot afford actually right now. If we have to become developed by 2047, this is something which we cannot afford. You cannot become developed by an unproductive or underproductive workforce. And for getting a productive workforce, you need to focus on child or children right from the very beginning, right from the word go. So it is like this. Human resources are the bedrock of any nation. And if the human resources, they are not, I would say, adequately skilled or adequately educated, it will be a problem. Slowly but surely, the Indian development state has fostered and catered to parental aspirations for education. They're targeting access to education and quality of education with an increased focus on measuring learning outcomes. But unfortunately, in India, learning outcomes are very poor. There are extremely low levels of learning outcome. This has been highlighted in multiple reports, and the most prominent of them being the annual survey on education report, ASER report, which we call them. Class 5 students cannot do a 2-digit subtraction. So 57% of them. 53% of them cannot measure the length of a pencil by using a ruler. These are the levels of learning outcomes. So those learning outcomes need to be improved. Now, steps taken by the government. The first step taken is Nipun Bharat. Nipun stands for National Initiative for Proficiency in Reading with Understanding and Numeracy, for foundational literacy and numeracy. So, foundational literacy and numeracy, this has to improve. Means learning outcomes have to improve. The Honorable Education Minister, Mr. Dharmendra Pradhan, has said that as per NEP 2020, the highest priority of education system will be to achieve universal foundational literacy and numeracy in primary school by 2025. The rest of this policy means NEP 2020 will become relevant for our students only if this most basic learning requirement, that is reading, writing, arithmetic at the foundational level, is first achieved. National education policy is very ambitious, but that policy will only be realized if the fundamentals are clear among the students. And what are the fundamentals? Basic numeracy, reading, writing, which they cannot do as per multiple findings. So that has to be taken care of. Nipun Bharat aims at doing that. Next is Poshan Bhi Padhai Bhi. The Ministry of Women and Child Development has launched this Poshan Bhi Padhai Bhi to improve early childhood care and education quality through the Anganwadi system. So as I said, nursery, LKG, UKG, this will be taken care by the Anganwadi system. Anganwadi system was earlier responsible for cooking midday meals and supplying them. Now they will be teaching the students in the Anganwadi setups in nursery, LKG and UKG. The program will ensure that India has the world's largest universal high quality preschool network as suggested by NEP 2020. Aim is not only to make Anganwadi centers nutrition hubs, but also education imparting centers, providing at least 2 hours of teaching high quality preschool instructions per day. Under this, the government will target children's development in every domain mentioned in the National Curriculum Framework. Physical, motor development, cognitive development, socio-emotional, ethical development, etc., etc. It will also ensure use of development appropriate pedagogies and emphasizing the links with primary education. So whatever you learn over here, when you go in class 1 and 2 or ahead classes, the foundation which has been laid here is utilized over here. You are not blank when you reach over here. It will also help build a Jan Andolan to involve communities in strengthening the foundations of the country's future generations. So this is also what the government is targeting through this. Next is increased budgetary allocation. Budgetary allocation for what? For teaching and learning materials which have to be created. Now, according to the NEP 2020, instructions can be given in indigenous languages as well. So, this government is focusing on developing more and more study material. So budgetary allocation has been more than triple or around triple. It was 140 crore earlier. It has now reached 420 crore per annum, assuming 14 lakh Anganwadi centers catering to India's poorest 8 crore children under 6. So this has to be done. Then Jadui Pitara. This is also a study material. Jadui Pitara or magic collection, it is called as. It is what? A play-based learning material. Play-based learning material means now we used to teach students 2 plus 3 on the books, on their textbooks or in their copies. They used to add. But now no copies, no books will be there. There will be blocks. For example, I'm telling you this example for addition. You have kept 2 blocks. We will tell the children to add 3 blocks in this. They will add 3 blocks and then they will count 5. 2 plus 3 is 5. They will never forget this. This is what play-based learning. So this is going to be introduced, and this is going to be introduced for this particular segment. 5. Nursery, LKG, UKG, first and second. It comprises of playbooks, toys, puzzles, posters, flashcards, storybooks and worksheets. It is designed to pique curiosity and accommodate the diverse needs of learners. It is available in 13 languages. So this is what Jadui Pitara is. Then the National Education Policy 2020 talks about the Panchkosha concept. Panchkosha means 5 principles on which the education should focus. First is physical development, Sharirik Vikas. This will happen when more and more students participate in sports and games. Practices of yoga will be there in the schools. This will definitely help in Sharirik Vikas. Development of life energy, Pranik Vikas. Emotional and mental development, Manasik Vikas. Intellectual development, Bauddhik Vikas. Spiritual development, Chaitsik Vikas. All these 5 principles are going to be focused upon. And this is called as the Panchkosha concept for education of children aged 3 to 8. So 3 to 8 means the first 5. 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4. So you are in class 3 or you are aged 3 when you go to nursery. Then till you reach class 2 you are 8 years old. So it is like this. So first 5 it is there. Now what can be done further with respect to enhancing learning outcomes or this overall early childhood care and education? Now the new age learning with smart classrooms, like you can make the children more visualize better if you have smart classrooms, smart boards and all. Like we also use at times maps or pie charts and all, so that you are able to visualize things better and understand them better. In government schools, this should be promoted. This will enhance learning outcomes definitely. Then introducing the concept of day schools. Now what are day schools means? Like suppose till 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock you attend regular schools. After that you stay back in schools. You get the meals over there. And once you are staying back in school, you are doing any activity like you are pursuing sports or you are pursuing music or you are pursuing any other skills. So you can do that. This can engage children with sports or learning any other skill, hobby right from the beginning. And it will have another benefit. It will also lead to overall development of the child. It will also allow females to participate in workforce more effectively. 9 to 5 job they have. But what if their students or what if their children come back home at 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock? Will they be coming back home? They will, lose out on their earnings. So this can have an answer to multiple things. To have a skillful, pool of children or skillful workforce of the future, to increase participation of children in sports right from the very beginning, and also it will help the females participate more efficiently in the workforce. Then assessment parameters and methodology should be altered. Currently the focus is on rote learning. You learn, the next day you go, you write it in your exams, you get marks, and after that you forget. The assessment methods should be unique, they should be altered as of they are right now. The main focus should be how much you have learned, how much you have imbibed. That will be, a true education actually. And life skills like sanitation, environment conservation, etc., and value education can be taught more effectively to the children. They can be made to participate in plays or skits, or more and more outside exposure. They can take the students for gardening, importance of gardening. They can tell them. This will definitely imbibe the spirit of environment conservation, or better imbibe the values in them. So this is what all that can be done in the government schools. If it is done, although it is a tedious task, a difficult one, but yes, if we have to be there by 2047, this is one domain which should not be ignored. And it is rightly said that padega India, tabhi to badega India. So padna shuru se hai, right from elementary level. Next is Genome India project. Genome India project started in 2020. Actually, at the global level, there is genome sequencing and all which is done. Of that international project, India was also a part. But of India or domestically, we started this Genome India project in 2020. And it was basically in news because Genome India initiative announced the successful sequencing of 10,000 whole genomes of healthy persons from across the country, creating a genetic map of the population. Researchers from 20 scientific institutes across the country helped in collecting the blood samples, sequencing the genome, developing a methodology, and storing the data. The data is stored in Indian Biological Data Center in Faridabad. That data is huge. This data set will be made available to the researchers as digital public good. So, what is genome sequencing? What is genome? We need to understand. So, first we will understand that what is genome. Basically, genome contains all the information about the body, first of all. What is going to be your height? How is going to be your voice? What is going to be the color of the eyes? Everything. Now, see, we should go through this sequence. This will make you understand it better. Body comprises of organs. Inside the organs, or organs are made up of tissues. Tissues are made up of cells. Inside the cells there are chromosomes. These chromosomes we get from the father and the mother. 23 from father, 23 from mother. And when these chromosomes combine, then inside the chromosomes there are DNAs. And DNA, this is DNA which you are seeing, this spiral which is moving. Inside this DNA, there are these base pairs A, T, C, G. There are 4 pairs. So, like this is the DNA. Like this. This is called as basically a base. This is genome inside the GN. So this genome contains all the information about the body. It is a set of nucleic acid coded as DNA within 23 chromosome pairs. Now, genome sequencing is what? It is a laboratory method that determines the genetic makeup of an organism or cell type. Now, inside our body, there are 3 billion such sequences. And if we, create these kind of sequences in the lab, that scientist which has created that sequence, genome sequence of me, they will understand that what the genetic setup inside my body is, what kind of diseases can impact me, what can be the probable, I would say, therapies to those diseases. All these things can be determined by analyzing that genome sequence, which is a lab grown sequence. Obviously, that sequence is created by taking my blood. In my blood, there are cells and then there are DNA also. Okay. So, this is what the government has done, and 10,000 whole genomes of healthy persons from across the country have been taken, and a genetic map of the population has been created. Now, how is genome sequencing done? There are around 3 billion pairs of bases in the complete human genome. This contains all the information needed to create your physical form and maintain it throughout life. From your height, color of the eyes, genetic diseases you get, or those you are at higher risk for, everything is determined by the genetic makeup or that sequence which has been created. Now, for creating the sequence, how it is created? They first take out your blood, extract the information from the blood. With the complete sequence of 3 billion pairs being extremely hard to handle, we cannot handle the 3 billion pairs. Scientists cut it up into small pieces and tag them. Like for example, you have ordered, let's suppose, a chair. That chair comes to you in separate parts. The legs of the chair will be separate, the seat is separate, the backrest is separate. And then you assemble them to make the chair. Simply, scientists cut it up into small pieces and tag them. The ACGT code of these smaller chunks are written down by DNA sequencer, and then the complete sequence is put together to analyze, this is going to be the sequencing of this particular person. It is a difficult task. The significance of genome sequencing or Genome India project, first is that we get to understand the history of our evolution, how we have evolved. Because see, genes, half of them you get from your father, half of them you get from your mother. The Indian society, there is endogamy practiced a lot. Endogamy is when you are getting married into your community. So how the genetic diversity has been, there is less amount of genetic diversity because of endogamy. But yes, this endogamy is slowly dissipating, and we need to understand the genetic diversity of our society. If we are able to understand the genetic diversity of our society, then it will be beneficial for us to discover genetic basis for various diseases. It can help identify genetic basis or genetic risk factors for various diseases which we can get or people in our country can get. And definitely if we are able to identify the risks, we can create therapies for the future as well to tackle with those genetic diseases. So this is what can be done with this. That is why it is so important. And last piece of news is Dharma Guardian exercise. Exercise Dharma Guardian is a joint military exercise between India and Japan. That is very clear. And it is conducted every year since 2018. So we need to understand that what is the purpose of these exercises to be conducted. See, there are explicit purposes which are declared by both of these countries or whichever parties are part of that exercise, that we are doing this exercise to establish interoperability. Interoperability means that those people should understand what our standard operating procedure is, and we should understand their standard operating procedure. There can be a situation where the militaries of both these countries have to indulge in a joint operation, let's suppose against terrorists, or let's suppose against any non-state actors which are targeting both. Another reason, explicit reason given by the parties that why these exercises are being done is that disaster response. There can be a situation when both the countries or the militaries of both the countries need to, devise a response to any disaster situation like India and Japan did after the 2004 tsunami. So at that time, we should know that how we operate and what should be our response collectively. We should not be blank at that time when the disaster is there and we have to respond to that. Disaster. Generally, these are the domains by which due to which these exercises are conducted. And there are other things like, we train them, they train us, we get to know the latest technology, they get to know what we have. All these things are there. But there is one implicit reason why these exercises are conducted, and this implicit reason is geopolitics. Like India and Japan doing this exercise means India and Japan are having strategic partnership, and obviously China will not like it. This exercise is being done to send a signal to China that we are strengthening ourselves, we are strengthening our partnership, we are strengthening our collaboration. So this is one such implicit reason why these exercises are done. It is not explicitly mentioned by anyone, but yes, as part of understanding, we need to understand that. So, what are the aims and objectives of this particular exercise, Dharma Guardian? It enhances the expertise of both armies in counter-insurgency and counter-terrorism operations. Improve interoperability between the two armies. Train troops in counter-insurgency, counter-terrorism, especially in mountainous terrains. Foster military cooperation. Enhanced combined capabilities to execute joint operations in the semi-urban environment. And last is disaster operations cooperation. So this is basically the reason why these exercises are conducted. And with this, we come to the end of today's session. I will be meeting you tomorrow now with more such informative news pieces. Till then, you guys very well know what to do. And don't forget to keep watching the videos. Namaste. Jai Hind.